Good day and welcome to another segment of In the Spotlight. I'm Superintendent Michael Richard, and today I'm pleased to be joined by two fabulous women from the West Springfield community, Barbara Morin and Susan McCarthy from the Bridges program at the Council on Aging. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, listen, these questions can get pretty difficult, so we start off real easy, all right? So
Sounds good.
I'd ask you to tell the audience at home a little bit about yourselves, where you grew up, where you went to school, what you've done for work, and then maybe how you got involved with Bridges.
Well, that's most of my life is spent right in the Valley. I grew up in Chicopee, went to Chicopee Public Schools and went to a Catholic school in Chicopee, moved on to Westfield State College, got a graduate degree there, and began teaching. And I did that for 22 years. And it was most of it was local. I did teach in Anne Arundel County in Maryland for a year. And then about 22 years into that wonderful career that I wanted to do when I was 5 years old, I decided it was time for a change. And I moved into financial planning, which was very different than anything I had done. And after 4 years of that, went into business, if you will, with MassMutual, and worked there for the last 16 and a half years of my career. Always wanted, though, and one of the things that I would say, all parts of my career were marked by teaching. So it was not really a big leap to get involved with the Bridges program.
Great, we're going to learn more about that
Absolutely.
in just a minute. Susan, same question to you.
Yes. Well, I'm 64 years old. I'm a second-generation American. I was raised here in West Springfield and attended West Springfield schools. I earned my bachelor's degree from Elms College and completed my master's degree at the University of Connecticut. I spent my career in human resource leadership positions, and I retired at the age of 55. I was very lucky to do that. And at that time, I met and married Bruce Barone. He's a professional photographer. We make our home here in West Springfield with our little dog, Freddie. And he volunteers with Bridges Together also.
Good. So let's talk about Bridges Together a little bit. Tell the audience at home, what is the program? Where does it operate? Who participates? And then we can maybe talk about recruitment if somebody wanted to join the program. What could they do?
Well, the Bridges program is actually a program that started out in Sudbury, Massachusetts. And I had the good fortune, if you will, as a volunteer at the senior center to be invited by the executive director there to a program that was going on at the Pittsfield Council on Aging. And it was an introduction to Bridges. And so that was my first, I want to say, touch point with Bridges. And I met the founder, Andrea Font-Weaver, and in the course of the day got very excited about the program because I had been working with Colleen Marcus to try to get something going and get together with the Coburn School to get the kids and the seniors together. It made sense to me just by our proximity. So that spring, we applied for a grant. Colleen was definitely on board, had two teachers that were very excited about it as well, Beth Albro Fisher and Liza Lavelle. So in September, we started the program. We had gotten a grant for the teachers training and for a volunteer coordinator training, and we began, that's 5 years ago now. So we have been at Coburn School for 5 years. The spin-off of that was, so we're now in grade 3, and there are 5 grades over there. And you're doing the program, I want to say, with each class of children for 6 to 7 weeks. So in order to complete an academic year, you really need to start in September and you end in early June. So the following year, we decided we were going to apply for another grant. And we got involved with the 4th and 5th grade over at Coburn. And the program itself is really, a lot of it is literature-based, and it involves reading a story and talking about it with the kids and an activity. So we went at Coburn from grades 3 to then 4 and 5, and then I had this idea that I should reach out to another school. And so I sought out Donna Calabrese over at Memorial, and we've been there now for 3 years, doing the second grade, and we're just about finishing up the second grade over there. They only have 2 classes of second graders and 2 of third graders, and we'll be working with them later. So it's been a very exciting program, but Bridges doesn't have to stop with elementary school. There are 2 other phases to it that involve a program called Our Smarts, which is designed for middle school kids, and then Lifelong Journeys, which is designed for high school kids. So this program, literally, if we wanted to get involved, it could cover the whole spectrum of kids from elementary school to high school. And it is a very engaging program in so many ways for both the children as well as the adults that are involved.
So, Susan, talk to me about what it means for you to be involved as a volunteer in this organization, and what your experiences have been like with the students at Coburn.
Well, being a volunteer for the Bridges Together program really goes to the core of who I am, and it's about serving and helping people along my path. So I get great joy from volunteering, getting to know the students, getting to know the teachers, and it happens very, it doesn't take long to form intense relationships with these kids because they're so open. So that's part of it. The other part that is important to me is society and ageism and trying to combat that. And right now what I see is that the media really portrays a very negative picture of elderly and the youth. It goes both ways. And it really says that they are disposable, they can be exploited, abused, ignored. And so we, as caring adults in our community, we need to combat that. And I think that this program does that very well. So, and how do we do that? I think it's about being self-aware ourselves. We can have negative self-talk about being old or older, or we're going through the aging process. So we need to have our own self-awareness, and then we need to connect with other people, other elders. I've met so many nice volunteers through this program and developed some friendships, and then to connect with the children on a very individual basis.
Right, and I'd just like to add that individual basis is really that there is a bond that forms, because in most instances you're working with 4 to 6 children and there are 2 volunteers. So it's pretty much, it's not a one-on-one experience, but almost. And it's very good for the kids to connect with people in terms of, well, you're talking about a book, it's a communication one-on-one that I don't think they ever get enough of today, because there's just a lot of opportunities to interact with media rather than people. So this is like a people interaction, great for communication skill building.
I love it. I think back to my own childhood and working with the woman who lived across the street from me, Molly Shevlin was her name, and Molly was an Irish immigrant. And just sitting and telling stories to each other. And I'd listen to her experiences, and then I would create my own vision for what my experiences might be like someday. And so I'm very encouraged by what's happening with these students and with, I'll call them our experienced members of our community, right? Because that's what you're bringing to these children, is your experiences and sharing them with them, and your love for reading. So let's talk a little bit about the books that you read, and then some of the projects that you create as part of this Bridges program.
Sure. Well, I actually brought one of the books
that we read. All right, I love it.
So this can be done, this is the Miss Rumphius, and this is a very interesting story, because although it's fiction, it is actually based on the author, Barbara Cooney, did a lot of traveling, and the book is about a woman who travels, and it's an intergenerational book, because she's working, the fictional character starts with her grandfather, and then it moves on to the next generation after that. And the grandfather tells the young Miss Rumphius, Alice, that one of the things that she has to do with her life that's very important is to make the world more beautiful. She has to come up with an idea. And so that's where the lupins come in. You can see them on the book. And she ends up, just as a real-life character did in Maine, planting lupines along the coast. So that's one of the books that they use. And I also brought some materials here that the children at Coburn created. So Coburn, again, has had this program for 5 years. So the original I want to say, books that we worked with, because we started, first of all, with 8 volunteers. We're now up to about 33. Some of these volunteers have been, like Susan and Bruce, have been involved with the program since the very beginning. So the teachers at Coburn have mixed up, have taken other books, again, that tie right into the curriculum. But this is All the Places That I Love. It's based on that. And so they came up with, this is a Beth Albro Fisher and Liza Lavelle idea. They came up with this idea of not just reading the book, but then having the kids create little books, if you will, about the places that they love. So there's a couple of those. And what they did with these, maybe we can share some of the little inside piece of it. But what they've done with this really is, so they've taken the book and then they've kind of created the places that they love. But this book itself takes place in Western Massachusetts. So you see all the places that the kids may have seen. And it was a fun activity, and it was so well received that they decided to have like a mini open house one of the afternoons that Bridges was going to meet. They actually had to do it at a different time, but they invited the parents in. So the parents and the volunteers came in, and the children read their stories to the parents and the volunteers. So that was it was a beautiful activity. And the kids really enjoyed it, and I think it was a terrific learning experience for everybody.
I love it. I'm thinking, as I'm listening to you, Barbara, I'm thinking about Dr. Seuss and the places you'll go and all the places I love. So I'm going to go off script here a little bit, and I'm going to ask you guys, tell me, if you were putting this book together for yourselves, what would the places be that you'd like to highlight in the book? Susan, I'm going to go to you first.
So
you thank me later for them.
Oh, the places I would go with the children?
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's an interesting question. I was kind of flabbergasted that many of the children didn't know our own town. They didn't know even Midnight Park or Bear Hole. And so I was pleased to hear that I believe in the 3rd grade the students are taken on a field trip to Midnight Park, and in the 4th grade they do go to, 4th or 5th, they do go to Bear Hole. They also go to Springfield Symphony Hall. Right. So I would like to take the children just to the places right around here. Some of them don't even know that that's the Connecticut River, just to the east of the school. So they're so tuned in to their homes, their school. Their family may not have such a broad outlook either because they're new to the area. So I would like them to get to know our beautiful Pioneer Valley. And another thing, if I have a wish list, I would like to see the parents more involved. Many of the parents do not speak English themselves, and I think that holds the children back because it puts so much of a burden on them to be the translators for their parents or even to be the adult in the household. So that it would be something else that I'd like to see happen.
So the English learning component to our West Springfield population is one that does present challenges, but we embrace it. We love it. It's who we are as West Springfield. Right. But you mentioned parental involvement, and I'm going to use that to segue to another question. Barbara, you've gotten involved in our community outreach team that was started about a year ago through my office with the idea of how do we get more people in the community actively involved in what we do, who we are, and how we will improve and move forward. Right. Tell me about how, I just remember when you showed up at a meeting sometime, I think the middle of winter last year, and said, how can I help? So talk to me a little bit about your involvement.
Well, in terms of my involvement with that project, I listened a lot to what people were saying at first because I wasn't quite sure where things were going. But the idea is really, as I see it at this point in time, because we did have a meeting last night, is there may be ways, in addition to, I mean, we've tried some surveys on a small scale, and that has met with some success. But to really get people involved, I think it's got to be people to people. So the thought that was that we've talked about for the last couple of meetings and that we're going to move forward with is to get people from this group, this outreach group, to go to school council meetings or PTO meetings and talk to people and really say, well, you know, if we're trying to improve the West Springfield schools, so globally we're trying to improve the schools, help us understand what you feel would be the best to move the schools forward to make them better. I do think that getting community involvement is important. Parents are very busy people. My daughter doesn't live in this town, but she has 4 kids, and I can tell you that on any given day they're going in 1,000 different directions. So we need to get, yes, parents need to be more involved, but we need to help them get involved. And I think using people that have had children in school or that are interested in the schools is a way of being able to bring us all together. So I think whether you are a more experienced citizen in the town, somebody who is interested in schools and may not have children, I think getting as many people involved in this is really important. But I do think that the idea of people to people is the way to do it, probably better than calling them or giving them a survey, although I think those serve a purpose from time to time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I do think that language is a huge barrier because I've asked children, are your parents coming to open house night? And they say no, and I ask why not? Well, they don't speak English, they don't understand. So that's a huge barrier and obstacle. So I think we really need to address that barrier.
We certainly do, and there are lots of creative ways that we're trying to do
do
some
that,
of that.
right.
I want to come back to the idea, though, that the face-to-face conversation is still the most powerful means of communication that we have available to us. And while our students, for sure, and many of their parents are fully embedded in social media and digital communication, the power of sitting with somebody and talking with someone, just like we're doing today, is unparalleled, for sure. So let's wrap up with 2 quick things. If there is a community member out there who wants to get involved with Bridges, what can they do? How can they connect? And what are the steps that they need to follow?
Well, to get involved with the Bridges program, we typically reach out at the end of the year, but this can be done at any time. They can call the senior center and leave their name and number, and I will reach out to them. And I know on one of these papers I have the number of the senior center. It is 263-3264. And just leave a name and a number and say you're interested. To participate in Bridges, a couple things have to happen, though. Number one, you do need to have a Corey check. Everybody does, and we need to renew those every 3 years if you stay involved. The other piece of it is there's a training segment to this. You want people to be familiar with the background of Bridges, what its goals are, its objectives, and some of the materials that are going to be used in the classroom. And that training up until this point has been something as the coordinator that I've done. But we are working within the next few months to try to develop a program where it's not just me doing this, because I see this project moving forward in a lot of ways. I'd really like to see Bridges in every elementary school. And then my next hope would be to get it in a middle school. And then my next hope would be to get it to the high school. Because I think that there are parts of this that are wonderful. And we have, as people probably, or they may or may not have seen, we did kind of an arts infusion program with the Boys and Girls Club. That was another intergenerational program, We also did a program at the high school last year, which will be repeating itself in similar fashion this year with some smartphone training with the Key Club. So there were 2 other things that we were working with. And there's a lot of other ideas that we could move forward with. And I think the importance of all of this speaks to the fact that within the next 20 years or so, there is a wave of a population shift. We're going to have many more people that are over 65. And people under the age of 13, that's going to be the smaller part of the population. I think we need to understand each other better. And this program and the work that has been done associated with it tells me that kids that work with older people when they're younger develop an affinity for them in a way and an understanding that's unparalleled. And to speak to the issue that you brought up about language, we know that from both talking to Beth Albro Fisher and working with her, that kids, the children from Coburn School that are new to the language, seem to acquire language more quickly with the infusion of the older generation or the
conversational.
Conversational. So there's a lot of good things that can come from this. And one other little, I want to say, piece of data that I've gathered is that older people that participate in this program, it has been shown, because this program has been going on for 23 years in the Boston area, Sudbury and Burlington being 2 towns that it's in the school system throughout. They've found that older people or experienced people that have been involved in this program are extending their life expectancy by 6 or 7 years. So, and their outlook on life is very different.
Sounds like incentive alone.
There's a lot of things involved in this program that are very good, yes.
Sure, good. All right, so to wrap up, you know, the sustainability of the program is driven by suggested guests. And so every guest has an opportunity to give me an idea for somebody whom you'd like to see featured in the spotlight. So order doesn't indicate importance here, but whenever you're ready, either one of you, I'd love to welcome a suggestion of somebody that I can bring in the spotlight.
Well, is it okay if I have 2 suggestions?
You sure can.
Okay. So I would suggest that Liza Laval could talk a lot about, from a teacher's perspective, about how wonderful this program is, because she has really enjoyed it and she keeps helping us develop it even more. And then Linda Parent is another person who has been involved in Bridges, and she's also involved with Kiwanis, and I think she would bring a lot to the table. And there's one other name that I want to mention to you, because I think she's done a fabulous job for us with another intergenerational program, and she did tell me that I could use her name, and that is our artist. Yeah, and I know I wrote her name down.
She's a teacher from Memorial School.
Yeah, she is a teacher from Memorial School. Yes, she is. And her name now I can't find her name.
But that was the great intergenerational art project.
Whitney Weldon.
Whitney Weldon.
Whitney Weldon. Yes.
Well, Whitney's on notice.
Yes.
And Linda's on notice.
Yes.
And Liza's on notice.
Yes.
All right, so I've got 3. We can make it an even 4, or we can go to 5. It's up to you, Susan.
Well, yep. Mine is a partnership with Girls on the Run of Western Mass, has partnered with Coburn School administrators and teachers. They've really taken on the project. And it's a program, a 10-week program that runs in the fall and in the spring, and it inspires girls to be joyful, healthy, and confident. And then it ends in a 5K race with all the girls who have participated in Western Mass. So that's a grand program, and I've been personally involved with that. The director's name is Allison Berman.
Okay. So Allison is on notice, and that Girls on the Run really is a fantastic program, and it's that couch to 5K type of program.
Right.
But when I see them training with led by teachers and volunteers, it's really quite amazing. So great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to be joined today by two very experienced and loving members of our West Springfield community, Barbara Morin and Susan McCarthy. I look forward to seeing you in another segment of In the Spotlight. Have a great day.